Hello, everyone. How are you? I hope fantastic. So, as promised, today we have a history class. Kind of a political science slash history class. So, the class is on. Actually, one moment, please. All right. So, class was because I asked all of you who the first president of the United States is, and we're all answered George Washington, and yes, that is the most popular answer. But there was a huge transition phase before George Washington became a president of the United States. There's a lot of other stuff going on, people trying to figure out leaders after the Revolution. And there were a lot of influential people in the country. So there were a lot more people that they said, "Dear President of the United States," before George Washington. Guess how many? There were actually 14 presidents before George Washington. So let's go over a bit of this history. One sec, I need to adjust something. The typing on this is very small, and my ojos are not so bueno. So let me figure this out. One moment, please. Okay, this is much better. So the Continental Congress was the early form of government of the USA for 16 years. So from 1774 to 1789. And it was made up of 55 representatives, 35 Moors, 20 European sons from the original 13 states. So you got to think back in history, like Lewis and Clark hadn't happened yet. The West was pretty much, it was just undiscovered and undeveloped. So there were only 13 places that had been established at this point, 13 states. The Continental Congress first came together to protest certain measures of the British Parliament. It also urged the colonists to arm themselves in defense of the rights. And before this meeting closed, the delegates agreed to meet a second time. By the time the second meeting was held, the American Revolutionary War had started. So these 35 Moors, and it's Moors, stem from five of the 13 states: New Hampshire, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, and North Carolina. And the United States of America did not have an official written government until the Articles of Confederation was signed in 1781. So from 1774 to 1781, we have the Declaration of Independence. Once the war had ended, we basically declared ourselves. But the Constitution wasn't written yet. What we had were the Articles of Confederation. So these 14 presidents were presidents of the United States, but under the Articles of Confederation, not under the Constitution. So constitutionally, you would be correct in George Washington being the first president, but he wasn't the first president of the United States itself. But again, right now there's only 13 states. So, which was signed in 1781, so there's 7 years there where they were really trying to figure out, we don't really have a form of government yet or anything, and so they wrote the Articles of Confederation, which was right before it won its independence from Britain. So just before then, they wrote up the Articles of Confederation. So the first president of the United States, or one of the 14 presidents before George Washington, this is weird. But it was Peyton Rudolph, 1721 to 1775, a pre-revolutionary American politician born in James City County, or Williamsburg, Virginia, and educated at the College of William and Mary, which, yeah, still a big-time college. An influential member of the Virginia House of Burgesses from 1748 until their death. In 1764, pardon me, he rallied the opposition of burgesses or legislators against the threatened Stamp Act. In 1766, he became Speaker of the House, which he retained for the rest of his life. Randolph was appointed to the First Constitutional Congress at Philadelphia County and served as its president in September of 1774, and then afterwards in May of 1775, as he served again as third president, which is the first president of the Second Constitutional Congress. Well, that's a big mouthful of stuff. Okay. Next person who also served before George Washington as President of the United States was Arthur Henry Middleton from 1742 to 1787, a planter, legislator, signer of the Declaration of Independence, and one of the leaders in the controversies that preceded the outbreak of the American Revolution. Born in Middleton Place near Charleston County, South Carolina. After completing his education in England, he returned to South Carolina in 1763 and was elected to its legislature, the House of Assembly. He served as president of the Continental Congress in October 1774. And then between 75 and 76, he was member of the Council of Safety, which was a committee that provided leadership for the state's preparations for revolution. He served on the the legislative committee that drafted its state's constitution and was a delegate to the Constitutional Congress between 76 and 78. At the siege of Charleston in 1780, he served in the militia and was taken prisoner when the city fell to the British. He was sent to St. Johns County, St. Augustine, Florida, as a POW after being exchanged in 1781, became a member of the Continental Congress, placed back in the House of Assembly, and went on the original board of trustees of the College of Charleston. Now, here's one you may have heard of. There are two in here that I definitely have, and this is one of them. So the next one was John Hancock. Why is he famous? Well, when it came to the Declaration of Independence, they wrote it up saying basically, hey, England, we don't want to be a part of you anymore. You're awful. We don't like the way you do things at all, and we want to start our own country. So we're going to create our own independent country. And people were like, yeah, we need to do that. And so people got together saying, we know that we're going to have to go to war. We know it's going to be tough. And so they wrote it up. And then it was time to sign it. And they hand signed it. And if you really look, take your time sometime and look. Now, most of the signatures, some of them are kind of illegible. Like on the Declaration of Independence, people sign like really small so that so in case anything went wrong, that the British they would say, that's not my name. That wasn't me. That was some other guy. That was, whoever cares. And they signed it really small and illegible so that, they had a way out. Now, John Hancock, on the other hand, was like, forget that. I want to be out of here. And I'm proud that we're doing this. This is a good thing and I'm behind it. So he signed it big, John Hancock. Right there, like they're going to see that I signed this because I'm dedicated to this cause. And pretty much putting his life at risk with it, but he didn't care. It was like, this is what we need to be doing. This is what we are doing. I'm proud of it. So, third one, John Hancock. An American patriot, statesman, first to sign the Declaration. Oh, he was the first to sign the Declaration of Independence. I guess the other people just after were like, that guy's crazy. I'm signing it small. But I learned that in one of my classes, so I know it's true. I'm born in Norfolk County. Oh, that's how the story goes, right? Is a lot of people were afraid to sign it, and then he just signed it, and he signed really big. And then everybody else signed, but they signed it really small. Sorry. My history's fuzzy, obviously. But it's correct. Go look it up, and then if I'm wrong, you tell me. Be a question on our next Jeopardy game if we ever do a Zoom class again, which probably will. But he was born in Norfolk County, Braintree, not part of Quincy, Massachusetts, and educated at Harvard, now Harvard University, then it was just Harvard College. After graduating in 1754, he joined the mercantile firm of his uncle and guardian, the colonial businessman Thomas Hancock, in 1764. He inherited the business and a substantial fortune. He signed it so big, he's like, I get money. I'll buy my way out of my giant signature. Sorry. I should be more proud that he signed it really big. He was elected to the state's legislature 2 years later. He also served as President of the United States in November of 1785 to June of 1786, so 1 year. He was member of the Continental Congress from 75 to 1780, serving as a presiding officer during the first 2 years until October 1777. Let's go 77. He was the first governor of Massachusetts from 1780 to 1785 and 1789 to his death. He initially opposed the Constitution for the United States of America, but later supported it and served as president of the Massachusetts Convention that approved this Constitution. All right, we're probably not going to get through, well, we'll get through all of them, but I'm not going to go through their whole story, but I'm going to give you their names. But just because, wow, there's a lot. Yeah, we got a lot more to go. But I'm going to get to the next big one. And then we will adjourn, as they say. All right, so next person is Henry Laurens from 1724 to 1792. I guess that's their birth and death dates, but some of these seem kind of young. Anyway, an American colonial statesman born in Charleston County, South Carolina, where he was educated and became a successful merchant there. In 1764, he became a planter. He served almost continuously in the colonial assembly. I'm going to skip the years. Was president of the state's legislature, then vice president of South Carolina, and then became a member of the Continental Congress, which is a big thing, as president starting in November of 1777. Congress appointed him as an envoy to negotiate a treaty with the Dutch, but he was captured at sea by the British and imprisoned in the Tower of London. And if any of you know the story of the Tower of London, I mean, we talk about Alcatraz as being a haunted place. Well, Tower of London, a lot of people believe that was haunted. But then in 1781, he was exchanged for the British General Charles Cornwallis, who had surrendered. And then late in 1782, Laurens was a signer of the preliminary treaty ending the American Revolution and later returned to South Carolina. So, that guy had an interesting life. So the English took him back, and it's kind of like Brittany Griner. So the English took them, and then they made a negotiation like, well, hey, if you give us Cornwallis back, we'll give you this guy back. Is that a fair swap? And then they said yes, which is really good for him because a lot of people died in the Tower of London. If you ever want, I will go over the history. Okay, this is the last full one we'll go over, and then I will go over the other ones. But John Jay, who I have heard of, was an American statesman, jurist, and the first Chief Justice of the United States of America. He was born in New York City and educated at King's College, now Columbia. He was admitted to the bar in 1768 and represented the point of view of American merchants and protesting British restrictions on the commercial activities of the colonists. He was elected to the Continental Congress in 1774, and again later on. He drafted the state's first constitution and was appointed Chief Justice. The following year, him being Chief Justice, he was again elected to the Continental Congress and chosen as president. In Paris, in 1782, is one of the commissioners who negotiated the Treaty of Paris, ending the American Revolution. He was Secretary of Foreign Affairs. Thank you. I like to say thank you to the mail carrier because they do a very good job, and it's hard work, and it's nice. But he was one of the commissioners who negotiated the Treaty of Paris, ending the American Revolution, and was Secretary of Foreign Affairs. The ineffectiveness of the Articles of Confederation led him to become a proponent of a strong national government. With Alexander Hamilton, so if you've seen Hamilton, and James Madison, he wrote a series of articles called the Federalist. Oh, I've heard of that. Which urged ratification of the Constitution for the USA. President George Washington appointed him as Chief Justice. And then when the war with Britain threatened due to controversies over the Treaty of Paris, he was appointed by Washington to negotiate a settlement. He went to Great Britain and concluded the agreement known as the Jay Treaty. On his return, he discovered that during his absence, he had been elected governor of New York State. Didn't even know it. That would be weird. By the way, you're governor now. What? I just got back. He resigned from the court and served as governor from 1795 to 1801. And then, like people should do, spent the rest of his life in retirement. Sorry. I think I have the hiccups. Okay, I'm going to read the rest off. So number 6, another president before Washington, Samuel Huntington. Number 7, Thomas McKean. Number 8, John Hanson. Number 9, Elias Boudinot. Number 10, Thomas Mifflin. Number 11, Richard Henry Lee. I'm looking for number 12, Nathaniel Gorham. Number 13, Arthur St. Clair. And then lastly, before we really started with the Constitution, Cyrus Griffin. So, there you have it. 14 people before. So this is a piece of history you can go and ask people, how many presidents were before George Washington? When people say there weren't any presidents before, I say actually there were. Under the Articles of Confederation, we did have 14 presidents. So, and in some ways we actually had a woman president for a while. Story for another time. Other things have happened, and so there you go. Anyway, I hope you all have a fantastic weekend and enjoy your President's Day holiday, because this is why we did it, because President's Day is coming up And now we know a little more about it. All right. Ciao for now, everyone.